YouTube reviews with RT Bear. Ooh, that almost sounded professional. I'm getting better. And we're going, oh, actually, for some reason, we didn't do our episode 9. Is out of whack. So here's, I knew something would go crazy. Yesterday, actually, every day before these shows, something goes horribly wrong. And yesterday, that table that the computer sits on, it kind of fell apart like just a couple minutes before we went on. So there's always something. And I think a couple days before that, the computer crashed. We couldn't get internet. And days before that, the camera just overheated. So this is a this is a crazy time for me. It's a crazy, stressful time. Hey, thanks for tuning in. And I'm RT Bear. I got 30 plus years in the comics industry, working for Marvel, DC, and various other companies as mostly as an inker, but as a penciler and a writer as well. So let's get on with our first portfolio. And this is Orlando. What is that? Mario? Morrow. M-A-R-O. Morrow. So I believe these are inks. This is an ink sample. So let me get a little beer and then we'll go so you can see all this amazing detail. So we go panel by panel. Holy moly, it's like an Escher drawing. This is nutty. It's a lot of work. That hurts me just to look at it. This looks traditional too, like it's inked by hand. So there's panel 1, panel 2, and panel 3 here. He's got his dog. Now he's flagging down a taxi. Wait a minute. He didn't finish his hot dog. Maybe it wasn't that good. And so he's getting in a taxi. And he's slipping this guy something. Okay, so not going to really talk about the storytelling or the pencils or anything. They are all good. This looks like I can't identify the penciler. I don't know. I was thinking like was it Transmetropolitan or was it
Transmetropolitan?
Metropolitan.
It does look similar.
Yeah, it almost looks indie-ish, kind of European in the approach. So this is strange. There's like two guys with the same kind of look, with the same kind of clothes. I know one's darker and one's lighter, but it's a little confusing. One's got a beard. So this is going to be very hard because this kind of detail can't really do traditional things with it because there's so much going on. You still want to pay attention to foreground, background, midground, which it looks like Orlando has, because the lines back here are thinner and the lines up front are thicker. So you did a really good job there. Depending on how tight the pencils were, I would say you might want to tighten it up a little bit. I'm not sure. It looks like some of this is rolled, some of it isn't. Some of this looks like it's by hand. So you definitely want to take, this is going to be really thick. You want to take a ruler and make sure, wow, it's still thick, that your lines Jeez, man, this is taking forever. That your lines are straight. So you can kind of see that the building is already a little not quite on. And so the problem with a lot of detail, that one's pretty good. With a lot of detail, it all relies on itself. So if one of these lines is off, then they're all going to start looking off. So the reason these kind of panels are very hard to ink is because you have to keep all the lines parallel with themselves. Like, that's actually pretty good. It kind of looks off just by looking, but yeah, they're off a little bit. So my critique with this panel would just be to tighten it up, possibly use a ruler more, and sometimes what you can do with these shots is if you have a T-square and you can ink with the T-square, tape the page down to your drawing board and set it up with your T-square to where, like, if this is straight, horizontal, and vertical, set it up. It looks like there's straight, horizontal, and vertical lines here, and then there's the perspective line, which is, I guess, the dot. Your vanishing point is somewhere in here. So, or is it? It looks like it's right here. Actually, you can still see it. So then you have true vertical and you have the true horizontal. So you'll never have to, you know, line up the rulers every time. You can kind of just go mindlessly, and as long as the pencils follow that, then you'll be fine. And even if they don't, you might want to tighten them up if you know that that's the intent of the penciler. And then what I suggest, like in crazy panels like this, is let me get rid of these and start over again. Like, it looks like the vanishing point is right here. So another thing I suggest is find your vanishing point. This one was easy because it was still on the board, but sometimes it's not. And the way you can find a vanishing point on professional people's work is just kind of just draw a line on this side, and then actually it doesn't look like it quite follows. Actually, now let's see. Yeah, it's a little, because usually it's where the lines will cross, so maybe this isn't quite on. These look like they are. The anyway, it's usually where the lines will cross. So you find your most extreme points and then bring them there. So then you can kind of see where they all intersect. And then once you find your vanishing point, then always just go from your ruler on your vanishing point and then just draw. So every time you draw a line, go back to that vanishing point. This is not quite right on, but you get the idea. And so then you're going back to that same vanishing point. So what happens sometimes is that lines will go in this direction, or exactly, but sometimes they'll be of like wobbly line. Make the building the start. So it's aware of where line and ways that you can do something this busy in a better way, like a clean, and make it easier on yourself by taping the board down, using a T-square. That's what I probably would do, just because there's so much going on here. But this is a really good job. a really good job. I think if you those rules, it would tighten up a little more. And these are all really nice. This is really busy work. Um, so all this brick wall here is really nice. It looks like some of the stuff under the bridge isn't the same line weight as this. So be aware sometimes even when something breaks up your backgrounds that they still have to follow the same line weights and the same rules. But it's very good. This would be a really hard page to ink. There's a lot of work going on here. I would say try to find your vanishing point. It's somewhere over here off the page. Even if you have to tape a flap onto this, meaning that somewhere over here is a piece of paper, and see where all these lines converge. Like I said, find the most extreme and then draw over and find the most extreme if this cart is lined up on the same perspective line. So then the vanishing point will be over here somewhere. And then you can do like I showed you above, find that vanishing point and then just draw all these lines off the vanishing point. Because you can see the sign over here. I think it's supposed to be on the same perspective, but you can see it's kind of off. Sometimes that's just a matter of the pin in a certain way. So if you have that vanishing point to go, then see following the same rules. This is a pretty basic 2-point perspective. It's pretty good. For me, like sometimes when lines are this thick and that's solid as far as the same line weight all the way around the neck, it starts looking kind of coloring book-ish. So if there's a little variation in these lines here, like thick to thin, I think it'd be more effective. And also, one of the things you want is you want your interior lines to be slightly thinner than your exterior. So the neck of his shirt and stuff start becoming interior lines, and then these out here are exterior. So exterior is always prioritized as being the thickest on whatever the figure is. And then these are like secondary structures or interiors, and those should be just a little thinner because it helps the reader prioritize what they're looking at. And also what happens is it starts falling into like a coloring book. If you look at coloring books, they kind of have all weights on them. So like right in here, like this guy, like his collar and stuff, this background guy starts becoming about the same line weight as his outline here. So just be careful with that. It'll help prioritize how the reader should see stuff. Like here too, like on this jacket here, it's a little thick. Here it's nice, but here it's a little thick. It's even thicker than your lines. And sometimes you can have thick lines like this one in here because it's more of a shadow than it is a line. So that's always fine. This guy back here, I like that he looks like he's in the background, but I think I'd like to see a little bit more of a solid, confident line around him. I like the movement. It's kind of scratchy and cool, but it's not with the style. Thing was done that way, I think it would be okay. It's a little wispy. Like see how like his head it's like really solid, the line weight, And then as it gets around his leg, arms, and stuff, like this side is a little thicker. It starts, the consistency starts changing. So that's the thing I see mostly in this panel is just interior lines being as thick as exterior lines. Like even some of this stuff in the background, the lines are a little too thick, a little too heavily structured. Like some of these lines are thicker on that than even on the bus. And sometimes what I like to do is if it's a smaller object, like a can or whatever this is, have a thinner line on it. And then like the bus, since it's bigger and it's bigger in mass, that it would have like a thicker line on it. So sometimes mass, not just things in the foreground, would have a thicker line. Sometimes things that are really big, like if you're going to ink the Hulk, even if he's standing right next to somebody, like say Spider-Man, the Hulk will always have thicker lines on it just because his mass is bigger. It's just kind of a way to show those things. It's really good. I really like the dot kind of Mobius European. I really like that style a lot. And Orlando, you do it very well. I I like the pants here. This is really nice. There's good structure, good interiors. The interiors could be a little thinner, but in places. But other than that, it's really nice. This is a nice sweep on the leg. Good stuff. Good stuff. So yeah, the same thing. Interior lines a little thick. Unless that's the style of the pencil. If it is, it's not following on every. The rule is not applying to every figure. So I think this is probably you, Orlando, putting thicker lines on interiors. And here's the thing about like prioritizing line weights. These meters here. Oh, we got a.
Love your channel. Keep up the fantastic words. It says MIB.
Thanks, MIB. Men in Black is MIB. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I hope to. And so, yeah, these meters here, the line weight around them is actually this is even thicker than this figure, and the figures in front of these things. Um, you have to kind of prioritize your line weight. So, like the storytelling dictates, it looks like this guy is the main, him to be seen. Um, we want him to stand out. We don't need the meters. Do we have another one?
Mint in box. He said it stands for.
Oh, cool. Thank you. That's awesome.
That's a real comic book reference.
Yes.
Toy collecting.
Mint in box. Yeah, and like I think the main thing in this we're trying to get across is this guy here and this taxi. So the taxi has some nice line weight like here, lumpy in here, but it kind of falls apart. Like I think if the thickness kind of carried throughout this car, it would be more effective storytelling wise. It's very nice. Once again, like it's really thick in here, but not so much in other places. So follow through with your line weights. Be more consistent. Very good. I like the precision on these eyes, and I like these dot patterns. They're very nice. Very, very nice. Yeah, good line weight on the driver. It's definitely in the foreground. I would invest in some nice templates. There's nice template sets that you can get, and if you're going to ink, they're invaluable. They're like the inker's best friend. And I'll find, if you tune in tomorrow, you guys, I'll find the brand name that I use books, and I think they change in 5% increments of each other, and they're all different. You know, it goes from a circle, and then 5% less, like 95%, and then 90%, 85%, 80%, and it just kind of keeps going down. So you have every ellipse in every size, um, in proportion, in different, percentages, and it really helps, because sometimes when you have to freehand these ovals and these circles, it gets really hard. And I'm gonna send out a shout out to Matthew Clark, because Matthew Clark is the one that turned me on to that template set. They're expensive, but my gosh, they saved my butt every time. I draw with them, ink with them, everything. So they're really helpful, and he uses them when he pencils, which helps when an inker uses the same tools or has the same templates as the penciler. Then you can, we use, then you can use as well. So this is still Orlando's work, but it looks like a different penciler, I think.
May I say one thing about those templates?
Yes.
Absolutely do not buy the cheap templates from Michaels, the Craft Blue brand. They are cut horribly, and they are not exact circles, and you will get staggers in your lines and random hesitations, because you get what you pay for. Splurge and get the good templates.
Yeah, and also the ones I'm talking about, like I said, I'll find the name brand and I'll tell you guys tomorrow. But they're inker templates too, so they're raised. A note, a question.
Oh, someone wants to know when you learned to draw.
I've always drawn since I liked animation. Like, I mostly drew cartoons and things. Disney guy, so I liked all the Disney. So I always drew. Became a teen. I started drawing less. Got interested in rock music and girls, so I kind of got away from comics and drawing. And then, interesting story. I was bedridden in my late teens, 18, and I was bedridden for a time. And I had a friend. She brought comic books, reading material, and sketchbooks and stuff, just because I couldn't do anything and I was bored. So I started drawing again, and the books that I was looking at were more like adult stuff, like Bernie Wrightson stuff, and Dave Stevens, and John Buscema, and some of the more like adult oriented, like Conan books and Rocketeer and things like that. And so I started getting into that. Jeff Jones, people like that. And so it was more illustrative. And so I liked that. So I started emulating that and drawing again. And I still never thought about pursuing it as better. I started playing the drums again and started trying to get back into music. And then I had another health issue with my back, so I got bedridden again. So then my doctor told me I really couldn't do anything physical. So I started really seriously rethinking my life. So I started going to night college, because I couldn't really afford, you know, a, you know, a real, 4-year, college. And so I just went to a JC and would take life drawing and illustration classes and things like that. I really wanted to be an illustrator, not so much comics. I wanted to do illustration. I wanted to do rock and roll album covers and novel covers. I liked like Frank Frazetta and stuff like that. And so, yeah, I just met up with some comic people and then started. So it's a long story, but basically I've drawn all my life, but I really started taking it seriously in my late teens, early 20s, and I broke into the business a couple of years after that. So yeah, this is pretty good. It's definitely a different style. Your hatching's pretty consistent. Yeah, once again, templates would really help. Like in here, it's really, really tough. And like this saucer right here, you can see it's not, especially right in here, it's not quite an ellipse. It looks like here where you had an ellipse, like a smaller one, you could fit it on there, but the bigger one, and there are bigger ellipses that you can find that will do all this. Same with these. It really does make a difference structurally. It will really help. Also, the thing to do is they kind of force you to think through the object because you get to see the other side. So you start getting to see how, like, if you think through the object. And I think most good inkers they're either pretty accomplished pencilers or have a pretty good understanding of the way to draw things.
Someone would like to know who your favorite comic book artist is.
Like right now or in the past?
Why not both?
Okay, I'll answer both. In the past was obviously those guys. I think comic book wise, I really liked, like Neil Adams was an early. Um, I really liked Neil's work. George Perez, um, Ross Andrew, George, what's his name, Gil Kane. I liked stuff like that. Stuff now, I really like Sean Gordon Murphy. I like, I can never say his name. Olivier Copiel, I think. That's how you say his name. What does it say?
Neil Adams and Gene Colan are my favorites.
Oh, Gene Colan. Yeah, he did a bunch of books that I liked as a kid too. Yeah, all that stuff is amazing. And but I think Sean Murphy. I wish he'd do more regular work. Um, there are so many really really good talents right now. It would take forever. I think I like just about everybody that's doing stuff. Yeah, I think right in here, um, we could probably go thicker in through here. Like the thickness on this rope is really good. I'd like to see that thickness probably or go whoops like go all the way around this. Then you'll know it's in the foreground. Yeah, it looks like you got a good midground line weight and you got a good background line weight. So you understand for the most part the background, midground, foreground rules. I think these figures thicker line on them in places to help them pop. But this is pretty good. Yeah, you're hatching. Try to work a little bit on that. It's a little dirty. But yeah, just keep at it. Let's find this one. Ooh, a monkey whacking a dude. That's always good comics. Look at that. Smack.
I'm sorry, it's my favorite.
I like that. Ah, smack. Ah. I want to see the next panel if it takes him down. Oh, this is not good. This is never a good idea to do. Butt shot. Wow, something was not nice to these guys. This would be a line weight priority issue. I'm not sure if some of these pencils are professional pencils. I think um, you might want to try to find some. I hope I'm not insulting anybody, but I think I would try to find some pencils that were more established.
You know who this reminds me of pencil-wise? The penciler for the current Walking Dead run.
Hmm. maybe the shadow here. I'm not I guess it makes sense. This is beveled. It's kind of weird though. It's a weird pattern. Yeah, this feather hatching here, it's kind of old school, but it's also really, really heavy. So I think for me, I would have went lighter and further apart there, and then thicken up the lines as it goes down into the shadow here. This is a way to prioritize it. So it's like a light to dark. Same here, like this looks real heavy right here. Your transitions from lights to darks could be a little better. Yeah, this perspective on these, whatever those grenades or something, is really, really off. It's weird. Once again, line weight in the hair. I think I would try to simplify some of this hair. It gets really, really busy and hard to read. So if you had a better structure or a more solid structure, and then simplified the interiors, not so much thinner, maybe a little bit in places, but kind of just. We got another one.
See you guys soon. You guys are awesome, and I'm a proud subscriber, says MIB.
Awesome, thank you, thank you. So here's a kind of an idea of how to, maybe simplify. The way I kind of simplify this type stuff is I always think like there's a light source and it's, it looks like it's coming in this direction. So where it's hitting the light, the hair, and whatever else it is, it becomes less or non-existent. Kind of like it is here on this next panel, like right there. That's a good example of it. So like here, even if the penciler kind of indicated that, it's the inker's job to make sense of it and to make it read. And you have the final word on it. Not that you should let that go to your head and get crazy egoed out, but sometimes it's just a matter of maybe leaving a line out or thinning a line out or just breaking the line. Like don't make, like it gets very, I'm going to zoom in. It gets very patterned. So if some of the lines like maybe don't touch, you know, things. Like there's like 3 lines right here in the hair that are converging on itself. So I think if you were to prioritize, like I don't know, let's say this one, like break it. See what it's doing? It's making it, it's airing it out. It's making sense of it. So sometimes like pencilers are moving fast, totally resolve everything, and sometimes, quite frankly, they don't. Because some things can, when you put, an ink line, because it's quite heavy in comparison. So there's 3 lines right here that are all kind of this doing the same thing. So if you got rid of some of them, I don't know, maybe even that one. We have 3 lines here that look like they're kind of doing the same thing, and maybe if they were thinner, but especially pulled back, it starts reading better, making more sense. So always think about that. It's always about reading, or how well it's going to be read, and clarity. Like sometimes outlines, things like this too. Make sure that if you're going to halo things, that it's very consistent, and very clean. I mean, you can get away with it sometimes if it's a little bit inorganic, like it doesn't follow the exact pattern or contour of whatever it is. But you don't want like this foot. See how lines are touching? You don't want that, because that creates mud and it makes it hard to read. So you always want to keep, that's an exaggeration, but you always want to keep those those silhouettes, or I mean those outlines, those halos, um, clean. I I really like this face over here. It's really nice. Once again, just some mud issues. Keep it clean. Here's an example of like the hatching. I think I'd go light in here, and then I'd make these ones thicker as they go in, and maybe a little closer together. So there's a bit of a progression from light over here to dark. And then this hatching here doesn't seem to work the same as here. So whatever this pattern that you have across here, keep in mind that it's actually behind this gun, and it keeps going through here. So all these lines that you ink have to be in the same family. They all have to look like there's a progression. So what I would do is I would, like I said, I'd start light, and then I would progress over in this direction into a dark, and the darkest would be like right in here. And then as I brought it back up direction, this part would be light again. So basically over here, a light to dark, darkest here, and then start lightening up as it goes over here. Yeah, your structure and your interiors are the same here and here. So I would probably go a little thicker on the outside, and then maybe a little thinner here. I think if you learned some of like the thin, where, let me see if I can do this with this tool here, is where you kind of thin it out. Like if this top line was thinner, it would also like thin out through here and then get thick again. So by doing that, we're creating like it's like a light that's hitting here, and then as it's going here and here, it's getting darker. So it adds depth to it. So it's lighter here and then darker on the sides. And right over here, it's going from an interior line to an exterior line. And then the exteriors, if you go darker, let me find a black. If you go like darker here, then you can kind of start seeing it. So you can see you can see that this line is different from this line, and even different from this line. So also where lines converge on each other, like this intersection right here, you never want lines to be the similar line weight. You always want them to be different, because it's just more dynamic that way. So as you can see, what I put in, this line is definitely thicker than this line, and is thicker than this line, and then this line here, this mass of the arm, isn't even here. So it's just a way of prioritizing and keeping visual interest. And then you can go even thicker, because you always want thicker underneath things. So I'm probably going to overdo this, but just to make a point. So this section over here on the arm, get my red back. So this whole section over here, you can start seeing how much more dynamic this hatch work here, this brush knives and this monkey. It may be the best monkey fur I've seen in a long time. Here's Template City, my friend. Get yourself some templates. Looks like the shoulder was templated. Possibly simplify the hair. But this is very good, Orlando. Very, very good. It's a good start. I would try to find some. It depends on the work that you're looking for. Like if you're looking for like Marvel DC work, these samples probably aren't going to be the best. I'm not sure what these pieces would be a good audition for. I'm not really an indie guy per se, so I'm not really sure. But if I wanted Marvel DC, find more pencils from Marvel DC artists, and sometimes if you contact them, they'll be very nice. Sometimes they'll sell you some Xeroxes or blue lines. So there's that. That's available to you. But really, really good. Get those templates. Be aware of line weights. Find your vanishing points when structuring buildings and things like that. And just keep inking. Enjoy yourself. Have a good time doing it. What point is there if you're not having fun? And thanks to all that that are starting to interact with me. I really appreciate that. It's a lot of fun. This is a community, and I feel like I need to pay it forward. There were a lot of people in my past that gave me so much advice like this, and I have Walter Simonson and Carl Potts and some different Marvel people 20, 30 years ago. It was probably 30 some odd years ago, that actually took Xerox. They had Xerox copies, and they went over the pages with markers and stuff and showed me, like gave me tips and things on what I could do. And the reason they did that is Ralph Macchio and Craig Anderson, who were my editor and assistant editor at the time. Oops, I closed that. I don't want to close. Oh, no, that's the right one. There we go. And they did that so I could get a better page rate. So I had a certain page rate based on the work I turned in, and then they gave me notes, and then I went back in and I cleaned up the pages and fixed what they said, and then I got a higher page rate. So, there's a lot of cool people in this business, and I just want to be, one of those guys that gives back. So please, be patient with me on this YouTube. This thing's building, so technology is not my strong suit. So sometimes the camera will shake or cut out or whatever. So we're still building that aspect. So thank you. Here's a little black and white treat. So I told you I was going to start doing this. So this is called Black and White. It's an image series I did in '94, I believe, with my writing partner, my wife Pamela, and reissue series called Black and White, and it did really, really well in the '90s. And so for the last, I don't know, 25 years, I've been asked what's and everything. So I was talking to my studio partner, Taylor Grasso, who's here. Say hi, Taylor.
Hi, it's me.
It's me, Taylor. Hi.
I'm the one that reads the chat stuff.
Yeah, she's got a very good reading voice, and so she liked the idea. So we just thought, hey, we started pitching ideas and throwing ideas back and forth, and like, well, let's see if we could kind of modernize this and bring it into the 21st century. And one of the big things that defines this as a 20th century is a newspaper. She's reading a newspaper. Haha, isn't that funny? And so he takes the newspaper from her and he's like, hey, let's not dwell on it. So that was that. So this what my work looked like, 20. So one of the things that we're doing with the new Black and White Remastered series is we're not just kind of tweaking the dialogue, but we're also remastering the artwork. So here's a before, and then here's an after. So I'm coming in and I'm digitally redrawing and re-inking things. And actually, now I look at it, I've already changed some of this stuff. So, like the chair here isn't compatible with this chair. It's higher. So I cut that chair down just for continuity. And this perspective on the table isn't quite right. So, perspective, I found the vanishing point. I kind of redrew that. So there's still room to improve. There's still room to grow. Somebody yesterday made a good observation. They said, "Hey, Art, you're like George Lucasing, like Star Wars. What he did with Star Wars, where he kind of went in and remastered it. So I guess I'm doing the same thing. I think that more people liked that than hated that remastering. So I'm hoping more people will like this than not. So let's go closer. So let's look at before and then with the makeover. She got a bit of a makeover here. So now she's all made up for the 2000s.
So handsome.
She's pretty. And so you can kind of see Reed Blackoat's face. His name's Reed Blackett. I like to mess with names. So there's that.
He went from dud to stud.
Yeah, he did. Look at this chin kind of jutting out here. This is kind of strange. I think at the time I was like, "Hey, that's cool," but it's not cool, is it? And yeah, Miss Stone got a little bit of a rework. There's Jake Chang. He's our bad guy, and this is the big-eared Jake Chang. Actually, this, I don't know what version of this is. This is not yet. There's a finished version of this somewhere. So we still have, you can kind of see how I'm kind of reworking it digitally. So you can see some work in progress stuff here on the face. So I basically tear down and go to the final countdown. So this is with Hulf's Blood. He's a Russian colorist that we found on DeviantArt, and he's really, really good. Oh, we got questions.
Someone asked, another 20 years, so you're going to remaster it with holograms?
Ooh, you know what? I saw a comic book bopping around on the internet. I don't know if they're called holograms or just 3D comics, but holy crap. Yes, I would definitely do that in 25 years if the technology was available to me. I would so do that. Oh, actually, the desk is in perspective here, and the tabletop or the chair here. So this is kind of an example of it all finished. And there's Jake Chang without all his weird jaw lines and stuff like that. So yeah, Hulf's Blood, like I said, is doing the coloring. He's doing a bang up job. The one thing that's really cool is he's not professional yet, but he takes good input from Taylor and I. So what Taylor and I have been doing is kind of we're giving him notes based on the original colors, and then he's kind of coming in and doing his thing, and then we'll send it back to him, and then he'll do stuff as well. So it's a neat collaborative effort that we have going with him. So he's going to be a major talent in no time. Probably after this book comes out, everybody they'll look at this stuff and go, "Whoa, I want to use him." So yeah, here's let me see. I'll make them all the same size, so you can see them all. I'll go one right after the other. After. So here's before. Here's digital inks. And then here's coloring. Also see that there's a video screen or computer, laptop, and no newspaper anymore. So there's a lot of that going on in the story. But yeah, I just thought you'd like to see this. This is something, this is a pet project of Taylor and I when we're not working on DC Super Sons. Our spare time, we'll do this. And so I hope you enjoy. I'm going to keep doing this every couple days, showing you some black and white updates. So keep drawing, have a good time, and I'll see you tomorrow at 3:30.